This is an analysis of an internal workplace document within the company of Google. This document was published in July of 2017 by a software engineer named James Damore. The framework used for this analysis is the Multi-Perspective Analysis Framework by Candlin and Crichton. Each circle represents a unique and mutually implicating analytical perspective when researching discursive practices of a particular domain, in this case, Google as a workplace. These perspectives provide important modes of analysis, including description, interpretation, and explanation. The mutuality of these perspectives are demonstrated where the circles converge at the center, in which the overlap indicates the interdiscursive research, which aims to combine these perspectives to investigate a particular discursive site. In terms of reading a document, readability is an important aspect of information design. According to Linsky's lunatic approach to information design, the reader should be able to locate information promptly, understand the information, and act upon it. This document effectively follows this approach, where headings and subheadings are relevant and informs the reader of the document's content. Titles in boldface type ensures the reader can distinguish a break between sections. Table of contents guides readers to the information they want, and there's an appropriate use of white space for visual separation of information. When understanding the message of the text, the reader must also fully comprehend the language and wording the author has used. The concept of plain English has only gained traction recently and has been adopted by many institutions, especially with the government and the legal sphere, which usually implements institutional jargon. Some of the principles of plain English include avoiding inflated vocabulary and jargon, using words that your audience can understand straight away, and clear expression. The following slides outline specific features of plain English which are relevant to the document being discussed. Abstractions is a term used for sentences that are vague and the reader is not able to relate to and thus cannot fully comprehend. An example of this is in this paragraph. The claims the author makes does not have concrete examples that the audience can relate to their everyday lives. Also, there is no further explanation for the vague statements made. Another concept of plain English is tone. Tone is the feel of the document and essentially how the reader feels when reading the text. According to Baden, 2008, the tone within a document must be personal, positive, and reader-centered. Having a personal tone indicates empathy to the reader. It can mean using personal pronouns when addressing the reader, like I, we, ours, you, and yours. Positive words will present the text with a more positive feel, and in turn the reader will have a more positive attitude towards it. Using negative expressions can do the opposite. Being reader-centered means the producer of the text takes into consideration the reader, their reality, their problems, and not their own. An empathy index can be used to determine how personal a text is. Damore's empathy index equates to 120, indicating that the text is highly personal. However, when the number of first-person references exceeds the number of second-person references, the text is deemed to be writer-centered rather than reader-centered. Another aspect of the document are negative expressions, which are words or statements that can instill fear or insecurity within the reader. Within this one paragraph, the author uses many negative expressions, which have the same tone as warning signs and can come off as aggressive. Due to the negative expressions used, this statement may be read as the author being authoritative and bullying. These suggestions made by the author come off as highly negative, which sets a precedent for the whole document. The next step for this initial analysis should be usability testing with the intended audience in order to gain feedback for possible redesign. Effective information design requires the producer of the text to consider the viewpoint of the readers and ensure there is a blend of content structure, appropriate wording, and visual formatting suited for those readers. Although this text was highly personal, the author did not consider the audience he delivered the manifesto to. As Google is a diverse workplace which has addressed issues of diversity by creating programs for minorities, the author has highlighted all his biases as a Caucasian male and has essentially marginalized such minorities.